Welcome to the 3Gs, the podcast where we dive into the world of fitness from three unique angles on three generations as we bridge the generation gap, explore diverse perspectives, and unravel the secrets of staying fit. Hey, welcome to the Three Generations podcast. My name is Michael. I'm the baby boomer.
My name is Cisco. I'm the millennial.
And my name is Kyle, and I'm the zillennial. So today we have a special guest with us today, a good friend of ours, very knowledgeable, and actually quite a funny guy, Mr. Coach Jack Noel. He is a Master of Science in Kinesiology, Certified Strength and Conditioning Specialist, USAW Level 2 Certified, and the Head Sports Performance Coach at Cal State San Bernardino.
Ooh,
welcome, man! Thank you for being here.
No, thank you for having me on, guys. This is fun. You guys have been bragging about this for a while, so I'm excited to get to be a part of this with you guys.
Well, we're glad to have you here, man.
Yes, sir. So, can you share your insights into your journey to become a performance coach?
Yeah. So I'm originally from Omaha, Nebraska. So I'm a Midwest kid at heart. Grew up playing all kinds of sports. Started out with ice hockey, got into basketball, got into football, track and field, everything along those lines as I went through my life. And I always had a passion for sports. Like, it's really funny. Like, people will ask me like, "Oh, did you watch this show on Nickelodeon or whatever, or something like that growing up?" And I'm like, no, I watched basketball games and football games and and different weird things like that. Like, loved the Olympics. You will, even to this day, you'll still catch me glued to the TV when the Olympics are on. So
You've always been attracted to athletics.
I've always been attracted to athletics. Like, athletics has just been like my thing for sure. And I got to high school. I had a massive growth spurt when I was in middle school. So I went from like 5'2" to like 6'2" and like pretty much over a summer. Like, it was wild. Like, it was wild. Dude, like, it was wild. Like,
yeah, feeding you,
dude. Hey, the Midwest, man.
Midwest.
It's beef, eggs, corn, and lots of milk. Like, I'll never forget my strength coach in high school. I went to him. I was like, "Hey, how do I put on more muscle?" And he was like, "You need to drink a gallon of milk a day."
He said, "Say less."
And I was like, "Okay, sounds good." My mom said, "Hell no, milk is way too expensive. We ain't doing that. Man. No way." But
well, hey, I gotta ask this: what brings a kid from Nebraska to Southern California?
Well, he's probably
that is my question.
I know, right?
It's Nebraska.
It's kind of wild. So
yeah, that's a pretty
as it comes. I mean, so as it came to sports, like I got into strength conditioning and I started doing it for my own athletic performance when I was in high school. Like, I really started getting serious about it. I had done it like earlier, in my junior high and coming up, but like really committing to it and getting that iron itch, like really hit in high school. And I was like, oh yeah, like this is what I'm going to do. Yeah. Like 100%. So like, I've known since I was like a sophomore or junior in high school that like this was my profession. This is what I wanted to do. And so with that, took me to college, where I played football at the university, or at Midland University in Fremont, Nebraska. Shout out to all my Midland folks out there. Small town, 25,000 people, small NAIA school. Went and played 4 years there.
We love you guys.
And it was after that it was really there that my professor that I worked with over there, Professor Mark Snow, really kind of got the idea in my head of working with Olympic athletes. And so I knew that if I wanted to get like to the level that I wanted to get to, I needed to get a master's degree. And so I took a year off of school after I graduated from my undergrad, worked in the private sector for a while, worked at my high school before that. And then it was funny, I got accepted as the head strength coach at my high school. And then a week later, I got accepted into the graduate program at Cal State Fullerton. Oh. And so I literally walked into the office of the guy who I just shook his hand, said, hey, thanks, man. Like, I'm going to be your head coach, or like, I'm happy to be your coach. Shook his hand. I was like, I got to go. Like, I have to go I got to go get this master's degree. And I knew that it couldn't happen in a place like back home. Like, as much as I love the Midwest, as much as I love my family and everybody like that, I knew that I had to go somewhere to really do it, to kind of step out of my, push me out of my comfort zone as well. And so that's what brought me out here. Was I went to Cal State Fullerton, graduated in May of 2020, and been here ever since.
How old were you when you were in that position?
When I moved, let's see, I was 24. I was 24 when I moved out here.
24 when you moved to a brand new state.
Moved to a brand new state. It was actually
Did you know anybody out here?
Hell no. Well, okay, so it was funny. A bunch of my roommates in college that I played football with, like a couple of them had gone to Santa Ana College. A couple of them had gone to Cerritos College. And so like I'd been around California guys. And it was really funny. They were like, dude, you would love it in California. And I was like, oh, come on, man. Like, that's not for me. All of a sudden, a year later, I'm moving to California. But I had one friend out here that I actually worked with for a while when I did move here. And he was awesome in helping in my transition as well. He was a huge piece in that. But genuinely, I looked up apartments online, looked for like the cheapest one and the closest one I could find to campus. How
much of a shock was that to you from seeing Nebraska price to California price?
Oh my God. Well, I'd been told that like it's pretty wild, but man, then I moved here and my apartment ended up being in downtown Fullerton. And I was like, oh, shoot.
That's not bad.
Are you kidding me? Do you know how much distraction is in downtown Fullerton?
And I will be honest, and I succumbed to that distraction.
Oh my
for sure,
God.
100%.
Downtown DTF, downtown Fullerton.
Downtown Fullerton was wild.
That was my regular Saturday night.
It's not that bad. Okay.
It's
not that bad.
For you?
Okay.
It was, but you know what? It was nice. Like I was able to ride my bike. Like I could ride my bike to school.
That's what I'm saying.
And whatnot. So it was right there. It played a lot of advantages and whatnot. And so after my master's degree, I worked in a couple of private sector places around the area. I also did some intern work at Cal State Fullerton, worked under Coach Isaac Salazar over there, who's now moved on and is with the Milwaukee Brewers now.
Oh, wow.
So he's the head performance coach for the whole Milwaukee Brewer organization. So I got to do some work with them. During my time there as well, I was the head sports scientist for the men's soccer program as well. So like anytime anybody sees them like wearing their like where they have catapult on the front, or like it almost looks like a sports bra. There's actually a small GPS unit that's up on the back of the shoulder. So I was in charge of collecting all of that data, which then I turned into my master's thesis. So it was a time motion analysis in the relationship of speed to Division I men's soccer players. And so it was really, really awesome to get to do that and kind of have that experience. I mean, we did so much stuff. Like we did tons of stuff with the Ducks while I was there. And it's kind of wild. Like when you go to a program and every professor's like second job is being a professor, it's kind of wild. Like, so I got to work on I got to take classes from like Dr. Andy Galpin, who's like, if anybody knows anything.
I've heard of that name.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like Brian Ortega in the UFC is one of his athletes. He's got that guy pretty much in anything human performance related, like that guy has a hand in it. One of my other professors was on the World Anti-Doping Federation board as well. So like, I'll never forget, we sit in our first class and he's like, okay, so no class next week because I'll be in Norway for a board meeting. I'm like, oh, I'm in a really different place. And that was kind of like one of like the biggest shocks of being out here in Southern California was just there are opportunities all over the place. Like if you genuinely really go looking, like, and just stay alert, there are opportunities everywhere, no matter what profession it is either. Yep. It could be strength conditioning, finance, insurance, housing, whatever it is. Like,
you really believe in that? Like, because like I said, I think all three of us really haven't left California. So I don't think we really know what's outside, and like compared to Nebraska or anything. Like you think
I was born in the Philippines, dude.
Yeah.
So that's true. I forgot about that.
So California really, you feel like does bring a lot of opportunities.
So if we're talking particularly like sports performance, and like and just in this realm, the entire state of California has just a much greater view of when it comes to like health, aesthetics, performance, different things like that. Just look around what's in your, like we have the Ducks, we have the Angels, the Kings, we got the Dodgers, the Lakers, the Clippers, you know, we have all these professional organizations. And then on top of that,
beach bodies.
You have beach bodies, exactly. And then on top of that, you have this massive pool of community colleges everywhere too. And then you can even, you know, from there you can go, you have USC, UCLA, you have Cal State Fullerton, Cal State Long Beach, you got all these other programs. Then you have Division II programs that span from there. I mean,
Wow.
In like where I'm at, the majority, like I think within a 25-mile radius of our campus, don't quote me on this, but if there's at least like 7 or 8 different schools that are at like the Division II level that we compete against. Mm-hmm. You don't see that back home. So like in Nebraska, we have the University of Nebraska, like that is king, like 100%. Like football there is king, hands down. And then like we have you have the University of Nebraska Omaha, and you have Creighton. So like those are like the 3 really, really big schools. We don't have professional organizations and stuff like that. There's like AAA ball. So like there's the Omaha Royals, or they're called the Storm Chasers now, but like they're kind of the affiliate team to the Kansas City Royals. But like then you have the high school rank, and then you kind of have middle schoolers, to where there's a massive separation of, like programs that are out there, and to where like some of the D2 programs, that is the level that Cal State San Bernardino competes at. There's like a D2 school in Wayne, Nebraska, where like I know none of you have heard of Wayne, Nebraska. like small ass town.
This is the most I've ever heard about Nebraska ever.
Exactly, 100% right. And so, but again, you go anywhere in the country and you talk Southern California, like someone's gonna be like, oh, USC, oh, UCLA, oh, the Lakers, oh, the Clippers, oh, name any one of the other. San Diego State, University of San Diego. You have UC San Diego. Yeah. You have all of these different options that are down here. That is just redonkulous. And then play on top of that into other professional sports like tennis, the Indian Wells, huge tennis tournament out in
my client was just there 2 weeks ago
in Palm Springs. The golf world is huge out here. Baseball is huge out here. You can play it outside all year long. That's not something that I grew up with at all. What I grew up with, it was okay, outdoor sports, great. Now it's winter, snow's on the ground. We're playing indoor sports. Okay, snow's starting to melt. Now we can start to go back outside. And that's why you see this discrepancy of, especially like in sports like baseball or golf, most of those people come from southern states and southern parts of the country, because they just have access to that stuff year round all the time. And it's really rare that you'll see, like, even growing up, we would go to the College World Series. And so the College World Series is where
isn't that done in College World Series, mostly done in Nebraska?
Yeah. So it's in Omaha every year. So the top 8 baseball teams in NCAA Division I come and play in Omaha in the summertime, essentially for the national championship. And like it happens, but it's really rare to see a team come from like a North state. So
in
like
the finals and whatnot.
Exactly. So like, most of the teams we're seeing every year are LSU, Florida. We're seeing Arkansas, we're seeing Tennessee, we're seeing those kind of different, or USC, Stanford come out and stuff like that, and they just have those different opportunities. So being able to come to a place like here, to where then you can even go outside of sports and just look at the general aesthetics of California. Like when you think of California, like, if you're a meathead, you're thinking Muscle Beach, you're thinking Arnold Schwarzenegger, you're thinking that kind of stuff. And so it's a completely different perspective here compared to back home, to where basically you need to make sure back home that you're strong enough to throw the bales of hay, on the tractor, or you're able to, carry out your usual chores. It's not that sports performance is not prioritized. It's just that the
resources are not that accessible over there because of like the weather and whatnot. Like you said, California all year round, we got good weather. I remember one client said they're never going to leave California because during the wintertime you can go snowboarding in the day,
and then you can surf
at night. Mm-hmm. And like, where in any other state can you do that?
You really can't. You can't do that anywhere else. It's probably one of the most unique places in the world. Like really to live 100%.
I love hearing your perspective of California, because I feel like I hear a lot of people leaving California because California is expensive. It's expensive. But then when you hear someone who from Nebraska,
we take advantage of
we take it for granted and whatnot, because I didn't think about it like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And like what he said, you have to be open and looking to the opportunities around us. If you're not looking, then you're going to miss it for sure.
But some of the best athletes come from back east, back west.
You're right.
You know,
and you know, especially like if we're looking at, you know, East Coast in particular, like there's just a larger percentage of the population out that direction as well. So, you know, you get a larger amount of people, but at the same time, there's a reason that the SEC is such a dominant conference. There's a reason, because you just go look at any of the resources that those people put out for their athletes or for their people. It's absolutely ridiculous. Like, okay, do any of you guys follow Sorinex on social media? So Sorinex is they are a weight room build. They basically build weight rooms. So they're an exercise. They're a strength conditioning equipment company. I would just go look on their page, and you will see some of the most amazing state of the art places that are at like high schools. Like you could even look it up.
Absolutely, right? You go
like even high school level, small community colleges.
Schools out in Texas.
Oh my gosh.
They have
those high schools
like $1 million weight room facilities for high school students.
For high school kids. And
that's crazy.
And you just look across, like you just look at Alabama's weight room, look at Georgia's new weight room that they just built. University of Nebraska just built a new weight room with all Sorinex equipment in there too. And you just look at the absolute details that go into that stuff. It's such an arms race. And you know, and they just have so much more. They provide a lot more access to
Sorinex.
That's them. Yeah.
Gotcha.
They just provide so much more opportunities, especially for their athletes, to really get an opportunity to improve down there, because it's put at such high priority. And that's even something that you see out here as well. Like look at Mater Dei, look at Orange Lutheran, look at Servite, look at those kind of bigger Bosco.
They're always a dominant force in sports.
They're always a dominant force. I mean, one of my colleagues he's one of the sports performance coaches at Orange Lutheran, and he actually used to be in our conference as well. So he was actually over at Cal Poly Pomona, which is a school that's about 25 miles down the freeway from us, and he went over to Orange Lutheran, and I mean, just the difference in the facility jump from what he had at Cal Poly versus what he has now is just absolutely it's incredible. And he loves the position. He loves the job. He's always putting, he puts really, really awesome stuff out there as well. And it's amazing to see, but like to see that in a high school setting and in a high school weight room is really crazy.
It says right here, high school facilities.
You can just look at the high school facilities. They are nuts. They're top grade, top of the line kind of stuff. Does it really require, that kind of equipment to really make like a really good athlete? No. But if
helps.
But there's definitely some assistance with it to where also in the fact of probably the biggest thing it helps with is recruiting.
That's right. That's a recruiting material.
It's a recruiting
equipment.
100%.
That's the first thing they show you when you bring in a star player athlete is, hey, come on, let me show you the gym. Let me show you the lounge room.
Yeah. Let me show you your locker room. Let me show you where you're going to be able to do your studies. Right. Let me show you where, let me show you where you're going to be practicing every day and whatnot. And so like the recruiting cells are probably, probably the more important stuff.
I have a question for you. Okay, you do D2, right?
Yes.
Now, when you get a D1, okay, the athletes are different.
Right.
That's what I'm asking you. Aren't they?
There's how do I want to put this? The difference probably comes into the mentality.
Well, yeah, but if a D2 gets a scholarship to the D2 college, basically it's because he couldn't get into a D1.
Most likely.
I mean, some of the athletes I've talked to, have told me, well, no, I'm waiting to hear from a D1.
Yeah.
I got offers from D2s.
Yeah.
But I haven't got an offer from D1.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to wait.
Yeah.
And hopefully I'll get a D1, and it doesn't even have to be a big college, but it's in the NCAA.
100%.
My television exposure is going to be better.
Right. But at the same time, like if you look at the percentage of kids that go from high school sports to playing college sports, no matter what the level is, whether it's NCAA, D1, D2, D3, or NAIA, you're an elite population.
Yeah.
And this is something that I really try to get across to my student athletes a lot is I don't care that you're at a Division II school, and you shouldn't care either. You need to look at yourself and realize that I'm in an elite population. I'm pretty sure it's like less than 5. No, it might even be lower. I think it's like less than 3% of high school sport athletes go on to play any level of college sport. That's a small number. So crazy. It doesn't matter. So like,
very small
compared to the large, and we're talking like pretty much all of us played high school sports in some fashion. And like the amount of kids that you went to high school with, or that you were on sports teams with, like most high school football programs probably have like 80, 90, maybe 80 or 90 kids on the team, potentially, like depending on the size of the high school for sure. And that's just a rough estimate. I guarantee you, baby, only the starters are, going on to play any level of college football.
Right.
Like, and that's only 11. That's 11 out of 80. Like, that's a small
But that's
number.
only half of will probably go somewhere and start.
Bingo.
That's true.
And then toss in the fact those that might come and become an All-American, or those that might become All-Conference or something.
One American, that's maybe one.
And that's exactly. And so that's where it even comes down to. So when I say mentality, that's the thing that I think gets missed, that I really can't stress enough to my student athletes as well, is that you're in an elite population. It doesn't matter that you're at a D2 school. Like, who cares? You're an elite human being. So you're still at a high level.
So what's your philosophy to a D2 student athlete in whatever training program they're in? What is your philosophy to them? Because obviously, they're not totally happy that they went to D2. They would have rather go to D1.
Right.
So what's your philosophy to get them to train to get to the next level?
Well, I think that one thing that comes into play with this too is the transfer portal. So like we can't deny the factor that the transfer portal has played in college sports, even at the high school level as well.
Plays a major role.
100%.
Huge role.
And we're seeing more athletes, even in high school, play at 4 different high schools in 4 years.
Yeah.
Like, because they're just constantly looking for another opportunity. So how that kind of affects me and what I'm doing is I can't take the old time college strength way of like, okay, here's our 4-year plan for this athlete, because they're going to get here as a freshman, and then here's how I want them to leave when they're a senior. I can't develop a quadrant like that anymore, because I have no idea if they're going to be in that portal back the next year or not. So the biggest thing that I look at first and foremost is, what is the demand of the sport? Like, what does the sport need first and foremost? If it's so we have 10 sports on campus. It's men's golf, men's and women's soccer, men's and women's basketball, women's volleyball, baseball, softball, women's cross country, women's track and field. So those are our 10 sports. So I have to look at each of those 10 sports and go, okay, what do they need? Because track and field is going to be different than cross country.
Golf is going to be
different than basketball. There's going to be a lot of similarities across the board. But at the same time, there's also going to be different emphasis as well. So there's some really big overarching principles. One is everybody needs to be strong. Like, just strength is the number one and is the mother quality that I can give to any athlete. How we get there, or what kind of strength we get to, is very dependent. So, for example, my soccer kids, I want them to be super strong on one leg. My basketball kids, I want to see them be able to pull double their body weight off of the floor. My volleyball girls, I want to see them be able to squat front squat 1.5 times their body weight. So like, I look a lot at strength to body weight ratios. With almost any athlete that I've worked with there, the best athletes, and I'm not talking players. So players would be, they're the best player on the team. When I'm just talking best general athlete, if they can jump out of the gym, or they can just do all the really incredible athletic stuff. The best athletes have the greatest strength to body weight ratio, just hands down. So that's like the number one thing I could give them. One of the best examples that I have is I have two great student athletes. One of them played men's basketball, and one of them played for our volleyball program. they came in and they redshirted their first year, and so this is kind of like a really beautiful example of like what you can do with a 3 or 4 year plan. And we just followed that plan all the way to the point to where she was an all conference selection this year, and he was defensive player of the year as well. And it was just that consistent long-term plan over time to where like we got his vertical. When he showed up, he was at 31 inches, which is still pretty high, pretty elite. We got him up to what was the highest we got? 37, 38. The kid could just jump out of the gym. Right.
Is there a minimum ratio that you try to aim for then?
In terms of strength to body weight ratio? It depends on the movement. So in particular, if I'm looking at a front squat, I want their front squat. That's the one that I particularly go to for athletes, particularly mainly for the trunk control piece of it as well, because they have to control that in space a lot. I'm looking for 1.5 times their body weight. For guys, it should be 1.5 to 1.7. For girls, it's typically about 1.2 to 1.4, 1.5. Like even one of my basketball players asked me the other day, he was just like, Coach, how can I get to a 40-inch vertical? I was like, if you get your squat up to that point, you will be able to push that. I rarely will ever see it that a person can't squat damn near double their body weight and not jump out of the gym. Yeah. Just look up any of the Olympic weightlifters and they're jumping. Like when they jump in their training. Like I just watched one with the Chinese team the other day, and all of them were like 35, 36, 37-inch verticals on a jump mat. And all of them squat probably double 2.2, 2.5 times their body weight. Is my athlete going to get to that point? Hopefully. Like that's definitely what we're working towards 100%. But at the same time, the really important thing too for them to understand as it comes to my philosophy is that's incredibly general. So we talked about strength being really, really important, but also everything that I do with them is very general. So it's general physical preparation, or GPP. It's not like any one of the recruits that come in and are like are meeting me and I'm introducing myself. I'm always telling them, this is not soccer specific. This is not basketball specific. This is not golf specific. This is athlete. You are an athlete. We need to build the athlete first. Like, so the example I always use is everybody, why the Great Pyramids are so tall? And they're like, no, why? I'm like, because the base is damn near like 2 miles around. Like each side. So like each side of the pyramid, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not for sure, but it's like almost a mile or two each side. And that base is so wide, which allows for that peak to be so tall. Which is one of the things that I commonly see when they come in. And so why my philosophy has always kind of gone back to being more simple and more general is because a lot of them come in and they have really done nothing but play their sport. Even at the college level, I'm seeing a lot of kids who come in with probably less than a year or two of legitimate strength and conditioning. And like when I say strength conditioning, I'm talking specifically squatting, hinging, jumping, sprinting, and different stuff like that outside of their sport. So when they come to me, a lot of time, like especially my cross country girls, and they'll even admit to it, a lot of them come in and they've just only run, right? And there's plenty of evidence and studies out there that show that you get long distance runners stronger, they will run better. So probably one of the most prolific ones was they did it in Norway. It was like an 8-week study. They just looked at their trap bar. Like they literally just get 2 days a week, they trap bar deadlifted so they did a 5-rep max at the beginning, then they based their percentages off of that. And then they had the distance runners. So it was a distance runner and cross country team, cross country skiing team. And they had them measure like their 10K times or something like that. When they got done with the 8-week study, with really minimal running or cross country ski, like all their 10K times went down.
Really?
Like all their 10K times went down. And so like when people come, and we won't go down that massive rabbit hole of how that relates, but like just getting strong is the number one thing that I can give them. And so if I'm going to look at that in any way, shape, or form, no matter how long they're with me, if I can get them strong, I'm going to give them a better opportunity and better potential to be better at their sport.
Hit their peak.
Now, if you put with an athlete's a special specimen, I call it.
100%.
Because they have been training whatever they've been doing at such a small age.
100%.
So when they get to that level, they're just way above. So when it comes to nutrition for an athlete,
yeah,
how do you manage that? Because they don't take the same nutrition as a regular person that comes in.
Right. So particularly for them, the biggest thing that I get okay, so if we're talking specifically to my college kids right now in a realistic scenario, the biggest thing they need to start with is getting in more calories.
Right, but then what about recovery?
So like so that's like the first place I always start with them is just we got to get in more calories, like first and foremost, because I'll have so many student athletes that will walk in to weights at like 3:00 in the afternoon, and they'll be like, "Oh,
I haven't eaten."
Boom.
Yeah.
Or they'll say, "Yeah, I had breakfast this morning." I'm like, "Awesome, what'd you have?" And they're like, "Oh, 2 eggs and a piece of toast." I'm like, "Great, what have you had since then?" And they'll just kind of like look at me like that, and I'm like, "Okay, we got a problem." So the first place is always starting with more calories. The second place that I always take them to is protein intake. Like number one out the gate, it's the biggest, especially with college kids and young kids. Like we have to get the biggest bang for their buck out of the gate. And so I'm always telling my athletes, your goal, if you don't do anything else but just focus on trying to get in 1 gram per pound of body weight of protein per day, you're going to be in a really, really good ballpark. Like you're already putting yourself up for success.
So what do you think the average amount of protein an athlete should have in a day? Combined of everything, protein powder, supplements, food.
Combined it all, 1 gram per pound of body weight.
Yeah.
Okay, so if I weigh 225 pounds, I would say, and I still consider myself an athlete because I still like to do athletic things and be competitive at stuff. 1 gram per pound of body weight minimum. Like for athletes, minimum. For somebody who's trying to put on a little bit more muscle, I'd say 1.2.
Yeah.
Like 1.2 grams per pound of body weight, because some of the evidence that we're starting to see now, like I remember sitting at the national conference in DC for the National Strength Conditioning Association, and I was listening to, man, the guy's name is I'll find it, but he was talking about high protein. This is in like 2019. He was talking about high protein diets. And they had done a bunch of studies with like bodybuilders, because bodybuilders are probably the easiest population to do any kind of nutritional study on, because they will follow that shit to a T. Like all the way down. They're just like, yep, sounds good. Okay. They almost kind of move like robots in that sense. Exactly. 100%. It's like Will Smith and iRobot, like straight through. So they put some of those guys on like 400, 500, 600 grams of protein a day. And the only thing that they saw significantly change was their body fat percentage go down. Like they saw no other significant differences. Like, and they measured the whole bit. Like it was funny listening to his presentation, because he was just like, because people would challenge him and be like, "Oh, what about their kidneys?" He's like, "Oh, okay." So
that's what I was going to say.
So they went and tested their kidneys. No differences.
The kidney thing is kind of like almost a myth. In a way,
in a sense, it's been debunked.
That's what I was saying.
It's really and it's really interesting to see too, because for sure, like if we look around, like there's this notion in society that meat and protein and stuff like that is not good for us. When in all reality, if you look at the amount of carbohydrates that have gone up in the American diet intake in the last like 30, 40 years,
skyrocket
compared to protein intake and whatnot, it's pretty ridiculous. It's pretty ridiculous. And we're not getting healthier. We're not getting more athletic either. That's another thing to take into consideration too, is that you go internationally and look at some of these international athletes that are around the world, and a majority of them are consuming lots of fat, lots of protein, a lot of veggies and fruit, different rice and potatoes and stuff like that. And their athletes aren't going to McDonald's. Their athletes aren't going to even like a Chick-fil-A. And if they are, it's like, okay, I'm going to look at the menu and go, what can I pick out of here that's going to benefit my goals and is going to meet the demands that I'm looking for? And so on the recovery aspect of things, that's the first place that I start with them is more calories and more protein. Like that's the easiest
Right.
place to begin.
Well, okay. This conversation came up one day, and I said I probably do anywhere from 250 to even up to 300 calories in a day.
No. He does 200 grams of protein.
Right?
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah.
Grams
Got you.
of protein in there. Well, your kidneys, and this and that. I mean,
Yeah.
I've been doing it for a long time, and I've always read that protein does not affect your kidneys like people think it
Right.
does. Like creatine can. It has an effect on you.
It can potentially, but even creatine is, oh my gosh. I mean, the amount of stuff that's come out, like if you can suggest any supplement to anybody to benefit everything, it's creatine. And you can get it from red meat and lots of red meat.
And your
well.
body produces it.
Precisely. Like they're showing now even more that, creatine crosses the blood-brain barrier. Like we thought it was only a couple things, like even like 5 to 7 years ago, we only thought it was a couple things. Now we're looking at going, oh my gosh. So if one of our athletes it's pretty rare. I was actually just talking to our head athletic trainer about it at school. We don't get a whole lot of concussions at our school because we don't have football. We don't have
high
rugby.
impact sports.
We don't, and we'll, if we do see it, it's mostly in soccer. Like it's mostly in soccer for somebody going up for a header, or it's in basketball because somebody like came down from a dunk and hit the back of their head or something like that. So it's not very common. But if we're gonna help any of those athletes, the first thing we're gonna suggest to them, creatine, to help them come back from their concussion, 100%.
5 grams a day, or load it.
That's also kind of been shown to be, you could go either way.
Yeah.
You could just take so I'm a 15-year creatine user. I admit to that for sure. It's 5 grams every day. It's just 5 grams every day.
Right.
And just keep it simple. Because some people are just like, well, yeah, like what about the loading phase? Like, do I need to do like 25?
For someone who hasn't been on creatine.
For someone who hasn't done it before, the loading phase
would especially like you said, and they need to recover from like a certain injury.
Right.
Then
the loading phase is kind of just showing to where like we start to get into creatine absorption rates quicker. Like that's really all that it is. So if somebody wants like the creatine to work for them faster and now, I would suggest the loading phase. If they're just somebody that's like, I'm just kind of looking for the benefits of creatine, just take 5 grams a day, because the loading phase can be a little bit difficult on your gut, and it can be a little bit difficult over time because you're just like, because typically with creatine,
that's
I always
like 20 for loading, right? 20 grams.
20 to 25 grams. And if you're taking like 5 grams, I'm typically suggesting like a 12 to 16 ounce water bottle to go with it, just to kind of help keep the hydration in. But like if somebody needs to be at their desk and typing at a computer and you got to drink that much water, you're getting up to pee quite a bit. Yep. So it can be it can be kind of difficult in that sense. But at the same time, so if we're going to suggest anything to them in that sense, like it's going to be creatine 100%. But even before we talk supplements or anything along those lines, it's got to be diet first.
Calories,
like the calories, the protein intake, your fat intake, whatever that is, that stuff's got to come first. The supplementary sleep. Oh my goodness. Hold up.
Get 7 to 8 hours.
Because my goodness,
I feel like as athletes, soon as kids in general, it's like sleep is
as human beings in general,
sleep is so important.
Oh my gosh. I don't know if you guys saw it, but I just put something up on my social media the other day about it. And it was Dr. Andy Galpin talking. He was on another podcast talking about it. And he was saying how they did a study on the Stanford men's basketball program a few years ago in season. And they required the study required them to get 2 extra hours of sleep a night. Like that was their requirement. In season, in 8 weeks, their 3-point percentage went up 9%. Their free throw percentage went up 9%. There was massive reports of less sleepiness, less fatigue, and better recovery. They're even seeing it in just getting 30 to 45 minutes of extra sleep. And so I tell my student athletes all the time, they're always just like, what's the best supplement I can take? Sleep. Like it's the greatest performance enhancing drug you can take and never test positive for. 100. I will die on that mountain. And there is enough evidence out there to show it. And it's tough because we live in a society that breeds like this thing of like, you don't need no sleep. Like, you know, like you'll sleep when you're dead, you know? And like, I hate that because you're going to die so much sooner if you don't sleep. And, oh, you want to be more productive at work? Go to bed earlier. Oh, you want to be more productive in the gym and not be a sore? Go to bed earlier. Yeah. Oh, like, man, I can't train at 6 p.m. at night without my pre-workout. If you're taking pre-workout to finish a training session at 6 p.m. at night, and you're not able to go to sleep until 2 or 3 in the morning,
why, right?
You're stepping over $100 bills to pick up nickels. Like, stop. Like, if you genuinely really need it in order to even finish the session, then we need to look at that from a much larger picture of, okay, is your training crushing you? Or do we need to make some kind of adjustment to fit your schedule? Like, do we need to break this up into segments or something along those lines? But we cannot step over sleep anymore. I mean, it is just too powerful for us to miss out on anymore.
Yeah. How many hours do you?
I train an athlete. You know, she's been playing soccer since she's 6, all the way through club, all the way through high school, into college, and she has remarkable strength. You know,
absolutely, I know who you're talking about. Yeah. She's a monster.
She sleeps a lot.
Oh,
and she told
shocker.
me, she goes, I sleep a lot. And, you know, I'm like, that's the best thing ever.
It's literally the best thing ever. Like, even our athletic training staff, like when some of our athletes will come in with some pains and whatnot, he'll literally tell them, just be like, here's what you're going to do. Here's your recovery. You're going to go home. You're going to go to bed. You're going to take a nap. And then you're going to get up and you'll come back after 2 or 3 days of doing that, repeating. Come back and let me know how you feel. They'll come back over the week. They'll come back after. This might be on a Friday. They come back on Monday. They're like, oh my gosh, I feel so good. I feel like $1 million. It's like, yeah, no brainer. Because like you literally need, you need to go to sleep. And
we're gonna ask
it's important.
Yeah, I was asking, so how many hours of sleep would you recommend to your athletes or just to people in general? What's the range?
7 to 9.
7 to 9.
They even show some detriments after
9.
I'm sorry. If you're anything short of 7, like we're even talking like 6.5 hours, 6 hours of sleep, and you're short of that, they're even showing some performance detriments in that sense, and it's pretty significant. Like it's kind of scary. It almost makes you look at it and go, oh my God, I need to go to bed right now. Like, you know what I mean? Like, gotcha. If you're and the biggest thing that I have to conquer with, especially with my student athletes, is social media. Like they live in an age, we live in an age of social media driven, and it's really easy to get lost. I get lost in it all the time. Like I'll just all of a sudden start scrolling through reels, and
next thing you know, it's like an hour later, you're like, what?
All of a sudden you're just like, holy hell, it's 10 o'clock at night. I need to be up at 4. I need to go to bed like right now. And so when we're talking sleep, probably the biggest thing that we can give anybody, like especially recovery wise. So we talked protein. The next thing would be, let's create a sleep hygiene schedule for you. Like, let's create like just a thing that you do. Like, okay, so every night at 7:30 or 8 o'clock, whatever time it is, you put your phone off. Like your phone goes on to, like you set your alarm, your phone goes on to mute. You don't touch your phone. You don't look at it anymore. You go brush your teeth, you shower, you create whatever kind of nightly routine helps you go to sleep. So, I have the Calm app. It's a meditation app.
I've heard of it.
And they have on there, it's kind of funny, but they have like sleep stories. Yeah. So they'll have like people that'll like read you. Like they'll have guys like with a really deep booming voice. You know, they'll read you a sleep story. If that's something that helps you, awesome, do it. If you like to journal at night. If you like to read a little, I like to read a little bit before bed. I always catch myself like I'm in the middle of my reading and I'll kind of start like dozing off as I go. Let's create that sleep hygiene schedule for you to where now, like you just know every night at 8 o'clock, no matter what day it is of the week, okay, great, this is what's going to happen. Like I'm going to do this. So when we're particularly talking high level athletes, this is where that stuff comes into play big time. Like in season, if one of my athletes is in season, so right now, my softball girls, my baseball guys, and my track and field girls are in season. They're in season right now. I hope they're still asleep. Like right now, I hope they're still asleep. Like I hope they went to bed at 10 o'clock last night and are maybe just waking up right now. Like especially after some of them had a meet yesterday, some of them had a game yesterday, as well. Like you need to be asleep. Like I understand that college has its temptations.
Yeah.
Because guess what? I fell for those temptations. Like I will be the first to admit that I fell for those college temptations. Like those Saturday nights out with your friends, like
celebrating.
It's a blast, 100%.
Time.
It's super, super fun. But looking back at it now, I genuinely wish that I would have gone to bed earlier. Like 100%. It's too important. It's way too important.
Well, you do like what, 10 sports, right?
10 sports on campus.
So how do you assess their needs and their abilities on each sport? I mean, because
Right.
the movement of every sport is almost the same, not quite.
Right.
But each sport takes a certain part of their body to create that strength to make them better in their sports. So
100%.
you got 10 sports.
10 sports. It's
10
assessing
sports.
across
Are you
them.
training all of them at the same time? No.
No,
right?
no, no,
okay,
no, no, no.
So
Okay, so
that
like-
makes it easier. So right now you're only focusing on 3 sports.
No.
Okay.
So let me break it down. So if I show up on a Monday, so I show up on Monday tomorrow when I go into work tomorrow, Monday morning, I'll have my golf guys at 7 a.m. I'll then have an hour break, and then I'll have my cross country or my distance runners at 9. My men's soccer players will come in to train at 10. My women's soccer girls will come in at 11, and then my track and field sprinters, jumpers, and throwers will come in at 12. I'll see women's basketball at 1, men's basketball at 2, and then volleyball at 3.
So there's you actually have a program probably in your computer, I'm assuming, that you can go to every sport and say, okay,
got it. Okay.
Women this, men this, men that.
So each athlete, when they come in the door, they'll go to our file cabinet. They'll grab their own individual sheet that allows them to record their weights on it, and they'll take that over to their spot. We'll then all go outside where I have a little turf strip area to be able to use, and we'll go through our pre-activity prep and everything like that. And it depends on the time of the year too. So when I'm looking at the sport, so like I said, baseball, softball, and track and field are in season right now. Their training looks a lot different than my soccer guys and gals and my volleyball girls who are in their off season. They do play some games on the weekends. For sure. So we obviously adjust for that a little bit as we need to. But those games do not count towards championships. It's really just more like scrimmages, just for them to get some experience and stay playing. So those teams' programs look a hell of a lot different than our. Oh, and I forgot our golf guys are also in season right now too. So they have conference championships coming up, which their training is going to look a lot different. So when I'm looking at the needs of the athlete, it's particularly looking at like what the demands of the sport are. But it's also why I said at the beginning that it's everything that we do is very general, is very, very general, because they're going to get a lot of that specific stuff when they go out and play. When the soccer guys are out kicking the ball or the basketball guys are in shooting hoops like that. We're now funneling into something very, very specific. When they come see me, I want it to be very, very broad. Yeah. So as an example, I actually just put it up on my Instagram today. Our basketball guys on Friday, on the last day of their training for the week, we played medicine ball volleyball. And so we're in basically, it was a
sand.
Sadly, no. I did it makeshift in my weight room, but I basically stacked the boxes up as high as I could, hung a rope across it, and they tossed it back and forth to one another with a medicine ball. And the goal was to try to get it to drop on the ground on the other side.
How heavy was a med ball?
It was only about 5 or 8 pounds.
It's a lot of plyometrics involved in all this. Right?
So in that scenario, I basically told them, hey, your goal is to score. That's your goal. And so now what we've done is, especially in an early off-season piece like this, they're not particularly they're really not jumping out of the gym or anything like that, but they're throwing it up over top, and they're now in a different environment, in a different scenario than what they were just in for 7 months. And it's a different ball. So now the ball went from a basketball to a medicine ball, and it's heavier.
Challenge the body to do it differently.
And now you force them into different positions to have to do different stuff as well. So it's important to have those things in there, which is incredibly general. Medicine ball volleyball doesn't look a damn thing like basketball.
Not
in the slightest at all. but that's also because it's April and their season just ended. So that training looks a lot different than when my track and field girls come in. So when my track and field girls come in, if they're coming in on a Wednesday, I know that they're going to compete in a meet on Friday. So they're going to come in, we'll get warmed up, we'll jump up onto something or jump up onto a box, just kind of wake the system up a little bit. But the box allows us to take a lot of impact out because they're going to get plenty of impact when they go in and sprint, as fast as they can down the track. Yeah. And then we'll do like a hang snatch or some kind of fast variation. We'll do a step up and then bye, see ya. Go get more protein, go get more sleep.
Well,
that's the kind of time of year that we do that kind of stuff. And again, the training is a little bit different now, depending on the team and at the time of the year.
Do you have a stretch specialist or a person that does stretching? Because, you want injury prevention, right?
I am the stretch specialist.
That's what I wanted to know.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't like that word for sure, but how
important is it? How important is it?
It's incredibly important. Like you should be mobile. Like, oh my gosh, I was just watching the other day, and this is where when it comes to stretching, when it comes to mobility and flexibility, the best people to watch are gymnasts. I was watching female gymnastics the other weekend, and I swear to you, this girl goes up next to the side of the beam, jumps, caught herself on the side of the beam with her feet in the splits, and then just popped up and continued her routine. Or like you watch the floor routines and they just boom,
they launch
flip,
themselves up
and then land in the splits and pop back up. That is, when we're talking athletics, that is the kind of flexibility that I'm looking for. I want them to have that kind of range of motion, that kind of freedom. Will they ever achieve?
I can't even open my legs.
Will they ever achieve it? Maybe, maybe not. But if we're working towards that, it's going to give them so much more freedom. So like my soccer guys, it would be cool if they could get themselves into the splits. And they're probably the most immobile group that I have on the board. And guess what? A lot of them come in with some kind of hip pain, some kind of knee tweak, and different things like that.
What a coincidence.
What a wild coincidence, right? And then all of a sudden I'm like, hey, start working on this and this. And it's literally just even if it's just like, we could even use something as simple as a couch stretch where you put your back foot up on, like you put
flexors.
it up, for your hip flexors, you kneel down. So basically you sit up for like a Bulgarian split squat, squat down, put your back knee on the ground and just stretch your quad. They start there and they start doing that every day. And all of a sudden they're like, oh my gosh, like my hips feel so much. Wow, I don't have any more knee problems or anything like that. So that's where that stuff can come into play. But I'm a huge believer in, I also want you to be strong in that position too. Like I want the people who can drop into the splits, they are also really strong from that spot because the majority of them can get back up from that place as well. Like when you see the first baseman reaching out and dropping into the splits to be able to catch the ball to get the guy out at the bag, normally he's just able to pull himself back up from those spots.
So would you say like have them stretch while they're holding some form of resistance or something like that?
That's where training at full range of motion comes into play.
Yeah.
So what's the time frame of a stretch before you work out and a cool down stretch at the end? What's a good time frame?
Probably usually our pre-activity preps are anywhere from about 10 to 15 minutes. Right, and then usually at the end, it's about another 10 to 15 minutes. But even just making that investment over time, my goodness, the amount of people that I see that just walk in and just start training is wild. Whether it's at, I never let it really happen at my facility to where it's just like, if you're going to come in here and you're going to train, like you're going to go through a pre-activity prep, you're going to do some kind of preparation for it as well. Right. And all of a sudden it just makes a huge difference. Like all of a sudden they're like, whoa, like I feel so much stronger. I feel like I have so much more room and range of motion and And it's just like, it's kind of, it's to us.
Yeah.
But you would be amazed at the even high-level athletes.
Well, I think why that is because in high school, I don't think they pushed it. I mean, I remember playing high school basketball. Our warm-up, we would literally line up and we would just act like if we're stretching and then we would do our drills. But think about it. In high school, I didn't have a strength and conditioning coach right on top of me. My coach was like, all right, you guys line up, stretch, warm up. And we're just lollygagging and we're not really going to the full potential of those things. I didn't think I got into stretching until like in my 30s when I realized I was like, damn, everything does hurt. hurt. And
We actually had a good stretching program for our high school.
Oh, you guys did?
That's really good.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
But I feel like most athletes
but also
Most probably.
yeah, most
LOL.
high schools are.
plug for the name of your podcast. Look at the difference because you're what, 25?
26.
26?
36.
36. That's a 10-year difference.
Yeah.
Look at the progression that has now come in 10 years. Like the progress that we made in 10 years, right?
It's true,
What
because
about,
we're now
what about my
Yeah,
space?
like what about him?
He's
How was your high school?
yeah. What'd you do in high school? I just showed up.
Come on now.
yeah, Mike was just
Don't leave
established.
the boomer out, okay? Come on.
No, hell.
Did you play high school sports?
He did high school football.
What'd you play in high school?
I played football, baseball. I was football and baseball, and I ran track.
And you ran
Did
track?
a little wrestling.
Okay.
How much
yeah,
did you guys
Okay, so yeah,
stretch?
so how was
What's
the
that?
stretching?
Yeah,
You
so
guys
what was your
stretch?
stretching like?
What was your stretching like for you?
Oh,
Non-existent.
track we stretched.
Track-
We
okay,
go in a
track.
circle. We would stretch.
track in particular, big stretchers.
Yeah.
Like, and this is something that I notice a lot with our sprinters, jumpers. A lot of them is at high velocity positions like that. You can't be stiff.
No.
Like you do not have the ability. You do not have the ability to be stiff. If you are stiff, you are not going to be able to produce the amount of force you need to. Like 100%. Like.
And you get injured.
100%. And probably our sprinters probably have some of the most flexible hamstrings on the planet. You know, they can just bend and move them in just crazy positions because that hamstring is so freaking strong. Like it is dumb strong. To be able to sprint at maximal velocity like that is absolutely wild, and it requires a lot of
Well, isn't it like the speed of the muscle contraction
yes,
and everything? That's what I was always told. You know, how we had to stretch.
100%.
I have a lifter now that I make her stretch before she lifts, and I make her stretch after.
Yep,
15, 20 minutes.
100%.
Never miss a day.
Yep.
You know, because that's injury. To me, that's injury prevention.
That
It's not an absolutely high guarantee. I'm not saying it's 100%.
and you can't.
Right.
Like nobody in here at this table can say, okay, if I stretch more, I am going to be more durable. No.
Nope.
Even if you train, even if you squat, you clean, you bench, you do whatever, you sprint, you jump, it only gives you the potential to be better at that stuff.
Because we have 600 and something muscles inside your body. Or
It's
something like that.
it's over 600
So
for sure.
there's no way you can keep each one stretched to perform the way you want to. You kind of have to like group it.
You kind of have to group it in a sense and look for, like, especially in a world where we are very, very time restricted, we have to go for the biggest bang for our buck kind of stuff as well. That's why, like, particularly I go for, when we're strength training, we're going to squat. We're either going to squat on one leg or we're going to squat on two. If we're talking flexibility, we're gonna look into the splits, either out to the side or forward. Or if we're talking if we're talking like range of motion, your shoulder, something like that, like we're going to go to dead hangs, or just something that covers like a huge bang for your buck. Yeah. Like, so I've torn both labrums in my shoulder, and both of my shoulders had this one surgically fixed. I really didn't start experiencing like reduction in pain until I started doing a lot more dead hangs. Really? And it was just like one of those things that was just, it was just a quick bang for your buck. Very easy to, in the gym, jump up, hang from a bar
for like
as long as I could.
Yeah.
Like genuinely. Yeah. And like what I noticed immediately was my left hand grip strength was so much weaker than my right. So like when I tested my single arm, I could hang for like 20 to 25 seconds on my right arm. It was like 5 or 6 seconds on my left. Oh. And I was just like, oh, damn, okay, there's something there, which is also what stretching gives you an ability to do. It gives you an ability to understand and kind of gain a better perspective of yourself.
Self-assessment too. It's like one of those,
stuff. Exactly. Yeah. What am I missing? Oh, wow. Okay, so like if I go down into the splits this way, it's like, oh, wow, my hamstring is super tight on my right leg. But I go the other way, it's like, oh, my hip flexor really tight on this side.
Yeah.
That boom, you just made a discovery about
yourself. You can see that
you can learn.
in an athlete right away. What is a strong muscle?
100%.
Right side, left side, whatever.
100%.
The question I want to ask you, and I know you can answer this. What is your dream job?
My dream job?
Yeah.
The Olympics.
What is it?
The Olympic Training Center.
What he mentioned
That's what I was going to say. I was going to say, is it the Olympics?
It's the Olympics. It's 100. I'll never forget. I got out here and we were doing like a little around the table at my master's program, and everybody was just like, "Oh, hi, like I'm so and so. Hi, I'm so and so. I'm here for this. I'm here for that." And it got to me, and I was just like, "My name is Jack Noel. I'm from Omaha, Nebraska, and my goal is to be the head strength and conditioning coach at the Olympic Training Center." And they all kind of looked at me like, huh? And I have that expectation and those kinds of standards for myself as well. And
as you should.
I put myself in those positions because I want my athletes to have that same standard and expectation for themselves, whether they achieve it or not. You put that for yourself day in and day out. Your days are different, like 100%. And we live in a society that wants us to be soft, slow, weak, not able to jump, not strong, not eating enough protein, whatever it might be. And I refuse to succumb to that. And so even if I don't ever make it to that Olympic level, I'm going to continue to hold myself to that standard and that expectation.
Come on, Jack,
level.
you got to be positive, man.
Oh, I know, but I know that I'm going to.
I think I'll be around for at least 2 more.
You're going to be well, and again, like
I hope to see. I hope to see.
I
know that guy.
Okay. I can't have 30 more years. So
I can't
to at least 7 Olympics.
Well, I can't wait until 2028 when it's out here in LA.
Right.
So like
That's what shooting for?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like I've had that expectation, that goal for myself since 2016 when they announced it. Like when they announced it was coming to LA, I was like, I'm going to have athletes in the LA games.
Around, man.
Hell yeah.
You're going to be there. You're going to be there. You're going to be there on the sideline.
Yeah, man. Honestly, Jack,
That's what we're talking about.
the way how you present everything, the way how your mind goes, and the way how your mind flows, like. Dude, you taught us. I thought we were going to be like more conversational. You had us listening because honestly, I love what goes in between your ears, man.
I appreciate that.
That's crazy and whatnot.
I talk to you all the time, man.
So, and like, no, it's weird. We talk all the time and it's like we can shoot the can all we want, but it was like, honestly, I was like, this I think was the first time I've really had this type of conversation with you, and I'm pretty sure for you guys, and it was, you brought in a lot of information, and I appreciate it, and I thank you for stopping by and sharing that with us, because holy moly, dude, like I'm ready to go work out right now too. I'm ready to go work out and sleep,
dude.
Like
we're all gonna go to bed for.
Yeah,
I'm sadly not gonna go to bed after this coffee.
My lifter tells me, but Jack told me to do this, and I'm like, okay, fine.
Yeah. Well, what's funny? Whenever there's a debate. And me and Mike, we debated. I've even said that too. What does Jack think? I'm all like, and sometimes it's like
250, 300 protein thing. So what Jack said
instead of what would Jesus do, it's what would Jack do.
What would Jack do or anything like that? Hey man, like I said, no, I didn't question you. I just was like, okay, cool. But then because Mike asked about that protein, because Mike just recently stated that he consumes about 300 grams of protein a day.
I told Jack knows.
He brought it up the other week in the gym, and he was just like, "Hey, they're gonna get after you on this one.
No,
what do you think?" And I was like, I think I got to go with that one. But honestly, like to the credit of especially your generation. Most of the books that I suggest to any of my interns I always tell them to go for the old school stuff.
Yeah,
like 100%.
Ooh, like what?
Limited.
Right, but not even just beyond protein. Like talking training as well. Can
you give us a top 3 real quick?
Dude, oh man, let's see. So one of the really really early ones is The Strong Will. It's kind of hard to get, but it's The Strong Will Survive by Bart Starr. So that book was written in like you know it. Like that was like
Mike was like, I was there when he wrote it.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, 100%. I watched him play.
Well, he watched him play and we're talking early like the 50s and the 60s. Anything by Vergashansky. Who's the father of plyometrics. I get into this conversation a lot with my interns because they'll be like, oh, like we're doing box jumps. And they're like, oh, cool. Those are some plyometrics. I'm like, no, that's not a plyometric. A plyometric requires ground contact time. And so like If you're jumping up onto a box, you're doing jump training. If you're jumping down from the box and then trying to jump back up, that's a plyometric, where you're trying to make contact with the floor. So like anything by Vergashansky is a really, really good one. A book that is more recent now that I really enjoy was Triphasic Training by Cal Dietz. He is the head sport performance coach at the University of Minnesota. Worked with U.S. women's hockey, U.S. men's hockey, has just coached a lot of athletes up there. That book is chock full of information and stuff like that.
That's dope.
Those are some really, really good ones.
Dude, every time I come in the book with, in the gym with a book, he's like, "Oh yeah, I've read that. This is really good." List of
it's
like,
and it's just so interesting because like, my God, like the Soviet Union. Okay, I love this conversation. Is just the Soviet Union is just, they are so far ahead of us. Like in the 50s and the 60s, they were doing things that we're just now starting to kind of accept.
Well, I think all these European countries,
they're so much farther.
Yeah, they're so much advanced in athletic technology.
So when we're talking that kind of stuff, as we said at the beginning, like some of those Southeastern Conference schools just have this ridiculous stuff out there. They are also paying sports scientists. They're paying nutritionists. They're paying data analysis guys. They're paying strength conditioning coaches. They're paying performance coaches. They're paying these people. These Eastern Bloc countries have been doing that since 1960. And not only that, but any of the data and this is why I say the old books, because any of the data that you read from those books that particularly come out of that world, all of that data is from champions. They did not measure just general, like they didn't just
measured the champs.
Measured the champs. And we're talking the Olympic champions.
Yeah.
And that is from 1960 to like 1985, 1986.
Yeah.
Only the Olympic champions, which is just absolutely wild to think of. It's just like, oh my gosh, that is over 25 years of. So honestly, credit to like your guys' generation, but there's some serious great stuff from there. Like I was even just interacting with a coach on social media before I got here, and it was like, it's such a simple solution. It's the really simple philosophy to getting really athletic is build a ridiculous capacity, get so scary strong that people are just afraid of your weights, and jump and sprint like an absolute menace, like somebody is chasing you. And it has been that philosophy that has been the three big key components since that day and age.
Well, we're the three generations, right?
Right.
And these two generations are close, but this generation's way off. My training method is so much different from these guys.
Right. And there's even things that we can all take from each other as well, to where like when it comes to like 100%. When it comes to, so I kind of sit in between you guys of, millennial. I'm probably more millennial than anything else. But also looking back and realizing that all of us sitting here stand on the shoulders of giants. Like, and I think that if there's anything that I really feel that I've grasped from my experience coming to California and throughout my whole athletic career as well, is that I'm not reinventing the wheel.
Nope.
At all. Nothing is getting reinvented. And it's the people who create these trends to try to reinvent the wheel that I feel they almost start to do more harm than good.
They do.
And it's
pushes up back.
It's tough to see. In all reality, it takes hard work. Like you
I feel I met the person that invented the wheel. I met Jack Noel.
You're kind of there, and that's why like nobody should disrespect you for that. Like 100%, nobody should disrespect you for your stance, or for your stance at all. And as soon as we kind of get to that point where we stop fighting with each other on social media on whose stuff is better, should we squat on one leg? Should we squat on two? Should we Olympic lift? Should we not Olympic lift? Dude, stop. Like we need to stop doing that. In all reality, sit here and go, okay, what is the common problem? And the common problem is we need to get more athletic and we need to get better. We need to get better, whether you're general population or not.
Yeah.
Like, we need to get better, period, and be better for everybody else.
I'm gonna listen to you more now.
About time.
About
But like you
time.
said, though, we do have to stay open-minded because we can learn from each other.
We can
tried.
learn
Regardless
from
of
each
our
other,
background.
Mike.
I said I'll listen to him.
Oh, man.
We'll get to you eventually.
We'll get to your point in a second.
Hey.
Well, thank you for this very insightful.
Dude, I appreciate you guys having me
episode.
on.
Yeah,
It was
man.
great, Jack.
Dude, this was so much fun.
And what's your saying? Stay ready, because
Stay ready so you never have to get ready.
There you go. I like that.
Yeah,
I like
100%.
that.
Always be
Yes,
ready
sir.
to go at all times.
All right, man. Well, Mike, take us away, man.
Hey, this was the 3Gs, 3 Generations of Fitness, with our special guest, Jack Noel. This was a great episode, fellas.
It was.
We need to have you
We're gonna
back
be-
here. We need to have you back
Dude,
here for sure.
literally
Need to
anytime,
pick your
like
brain
We're
more.
gonna bring you back for a Q&A.
dude, we
Yeah,
can chop it up
definitely.
we
But
can
we're
chop
gonna-
it up at any point. I
Yeah.
will, as you can tell by the time frame we've been here, I can sit
I
here and
know,
talk
Jack.
shop.
You
all
told
day.
you warned me about
Yo,
that.
Because
was
of
I
all the
did.
knowledge that you have,
I did.
man.
I told.
I didn't even hit my questions, to be honest.
Dude,
so-
I told.
I was all like,
I
yo.
told-
Questions that you prepared for?
Yeah.
I told Mike, I was like, dude, like, I don't know what your time limit is, but
We just have Jose cut it. I told you.
there you go. That's right. We were just gonna have Jose cut it.
All right, and that's
Yeah.
it. That's our podcast today, and
We'll catch
a
you
great
guys on
one.
the
Yes,
next
sir.
episode.